So there I was, holding the beautifully thin and light iPhone 6 from last year in my left hand and cradling the brand new iPhone 6s in my right. I glanced carefully at each phone. Both looked so nice, but I noticed that the new one felt just a bit heavier. I then turned the phones around and looked at their backs. I saw a little S near the bottom of the phone on the right, and then I flipped the phones around some more. Everything looked almost identical. It's as if I was holding two copies of the phone that I've already been using for a year. But then I unlocked the phones, opened some apps, browsed the web, tapped on the screen, took some photos, and shot some video. That's when I realized that the phone on the right was a whole lot different from the one on the left. Let's talk about the iPhone 6s. It's true, there are very few aesthetic differences between the iPhone 6 and the iPhone 6s. The new iPhone is slightly wider and taller, which those parts are honestly unnoticeable, but is heavier. That part I can feel. It's weird that the extra weight makes the iPhone 6s feel like a more premium phone than the 6, which it is, but I'm never a fan of something being heavier than before. It's not a big deal and the phone isn't hard to hold, but yes, the added weight is noticeable. But let's move on to the screen, because the headlining feature this year is what Apple's calling 3D Touch. Basically, the new screen on the iPhone 6s has the ability to sense pressure. This is super useful when you're on the home screen, as you can do a 3D touch on many app icons and perform some quick shortcuts. 3D touching on Safari, for example, brings up 4 options: New tab, New private tab, Show bookmarks, and Show reading list. And tapping on any one of those 4 options will do exactly that. Now, not all stock apps on your iPhone allow you to 3D touch on them, but I feel like Apple enabled it where it made sense. Even some third-party developers have already integrated 3D touch into their apps, and it's awesome. I can send a tweet by doing a hard press on the Twitter app, upload a photo by directly hard pressing on the Dropbox app, and even start a Shazam by doing a hard press on the Shazam app. Those are just a few. 3D Touch is super cool, and it's the best feature I've seen on an iPhone since Touch ID with the iPhone 5s. It's incredibly useful that 3D Touch also works on some links and photos as well. Just do a hard press on something that you want to expand or enlarge, and there's a good chance that it'll work. It's one of those features that's both functional and enjoyable to use. Moving internally, the iPhone 6s received some pretty major speed upgrades this year. Not only does the 6s pack an upgraded A9 processor and M9 Motion coprocessor, but it now has 2 gigs of RAM. This means that you'll be able to go from tab to tab, app to app, and task to task without having to reload whatever you're doing every 10 minutes. 2 gigabytes of RAM in addition to the A9 processor makes the iPhone 6s blazing fast, and it's obvious that a speed upgrade was a big focus for Apple. Another big focus for the iPhone 6s was the camera upgrade. I still can't get over the fact that this is the first megapixel upgrade that we've seen in 4 years, but hey, an upgrade is an upgrade. The rear camera on the iPhone 6s now shoots 12 megapixel stills and impressive 4K video. From my experience, it looks great. I think the pictures and videos that I took with the new camera will tell their story just fine. The front-facing camera has also been improved to 5 megapixels, and I can definitely tell that pictures taken here look much sharper than before. In layman's terms, the iPhone 6s makes selfies look really good. It's a much needed and appreciated improvement. Overall, the camera on the iPhone 6s is fantastic. You'll especially notice its benefits when zooming in on any of the photos or videos you've taken. The extra pixels make almost everything look vividly clear and rigidly sharp. It's a nice change that won't be hard to notice. Something else that I would consider greatly improved on the iPhone 6s is Touch ID. It's gotten to the point where scanning your fingerprint is so fast that you won't even be able to take a look at the lock screen. Just click the home button with a Touch ID registered finger and you're into your phone instantly. Even though it's small, this is probably my favorite upgrade. Now we're going to move on to the hot topic of battery life. I'm so torn on what to say here because at this point I'm still up in the air. I want to say that battery life is great and that you can get through a whole day with no trouble and you rarely have to charge it and it's awesome, but I can't. Akin to the iPhone 6, you'll have good days and bad. Some days I'll go to bed with 10 or 20 or sometimes even 30% left, but other days I'll barely make it and be forced to use low power mode for 20 or 30 or 40% of my battery. It really just depends on the day. I wish I could give you some more insight, but I don't have much else to say other than the battery life is average. Maybe we'll see a battery improvement next year. Probably not, but hey, I guess that's what dreams are for. Then there's those other cool things about the iPhone 6S. Things like live wallpapers, where you can perform a 3D touch on your lock screen to make the wallpaper start animating. Things like always on Hey Siri, so you can do some things on your iPhone hands-free. It's super useful for those remind me to do this thing tomorrow reminders when you don't have your glasses on or you're just plain tired. Things like live photos, where your iPhone actually captures a second and a half before and after you take a photo. So when 3D touching on that image, it animates and gives you a whole new perspective on whatever was happening at that particular moment in time. It's things like these that make the iPhone 6S amazing. I'm spoiled, and I'm lucky enough to get the new iPhone every year, so I really don't feel like I have the right to tell you whether or not you should upgrade or buy one in the first place. But what I will tell you is that the iPhone 6S is fun to use, and I doubt that when everything's said and done, you would regret buying one. It's a really nice, expensive phone. But in the end, this year's iPhone is just this year's iPhone. We'll probably see the iPhone 7 next year, the 7S the year after that, and heck, we'll probably see an iPhone 8 as well. The iPhone 6S is like the 5S and 4S before it. It looks like last year's model. But then unlock it, open some apps, browse the web, tap on the screen, take some photos, and shoot some video. That's when you realize that this year's iPhone isn't just like last year's iPhone. It received a plethora of improvements sprinkled everywhere throughout the device that make using it feel like a new experience entirely. I'd call it a success. Okay, you can. There you go. He's gonna pass now. Do you hear it? Ice cream truck just literally. What are the chances an ice cream truck is out at 6:45 p.m. on October 5th? The kids don't even buy ice cream anymore. I wouldn't buy ice cream from a guy in a white van.